Hey guys, Stu here, back with another tutorial. Last week we did weapons and we're now going to be moving on to movement. I think it's something as equally as important as firearms because movement is going to give you that advantage in positioning and overall keep you safer and give you a better push to your opponents. We're going to start with settings and then move on to some techniques and then finally tips and tricks, and hopefully by the end of the video you have something to take away. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So to start, I'm going to tell you guys something very simple here to follow. I recommend you don't skip on it, and it's going to be to drink water and stretch before you play. If you skip on these things, you're going to regret it later in the day or going into the next day, especially if you're playing for a long time or climbing intensely, swinging your arms about. It's just something I can say from experience and many other players. It's a must. Don't skip on it. Remember to stretch, drink water, and you'll be fine. Now moving on to the tutorial, we're going to hop in settings again to start this off. It's really simple here, and you probably already have your preference set, but the difference between head and hand relative movement is pretty simple. It's just wherever that thing is facing forward. So because I'm on head movement and I press forward on my analog stick, wherever I look is going to be where I move. You can still just move any direction you want with the analog stick, and I've played enough that I kind of know to tilt the analog stick in the opposite direction I'm facing to keep it consistent, but it's just whatever you're more comfortable with. I'll show here real quick. Hand relative movement, it's wherever my hand is facing. Forward is where I go. There's not too big of a difference between these two. The one notable difference I would say is that while you're playing, it's quicker to move your hand left and right like this than to swing your head left and right like this. But you can just do it with the analog stick either way, so it doesn't come out to too big of a difference. It's just down to preference. Alright, so now that you've got your settings all sorted out, we're going to start with something really basic for climbing, of just grabbing hand over hand. Usually people try to find the fastest way to climb. So what I mean by that is, when I first started playing, I did like a crawl like this where I kept my hands in front of me. But some people also climb with like a windmill kind of technique. So they swing their arm back like this, bring it up and over, and I'm just swinging my arms behind me while I'm climbing up. I've also seen something else where like you're crawling with one hand, swinging with the other hand, and you can just mix it up. So whatever's most comfortable to you or whatever you find fastest, I'd say go for it. So I'm going to show the next thing people discover pretty early on here, and it's that when you grab a surface and fling down and release, you actually launch yourself up in the air a little bit. The way you can use this while climbing to get faster is that while I grab this wall and fling down, when I'm at the height of that jump, that's when I'm going to be bringing my arm up to be ready to grab as I'm going up. So you can see here, it goes a lot faster using that fling instead of actually just moving your arms and climbing on up, and I definitely recommend you practice that. So going off of that fling mechanic I just showed you guys, I'm going to show you one way you can apply it to while you're fighting in the game. So let's say I have my gun here, I've climbed up the wall a little bit already and I'm holding on, and while I'm shooting, if I go to reload my weapon, I'm going to lose height. So one way you can prevent that, over here. One way you can prevent that is fling up and reload your gun. If you can't do it quickly, then just do it one step at a time with one fling for that, second fling for this. But once you get it down fast enough, you can do it all in one fling. Something else I can show you here is that when you grab a wall, wherever you grab it, that point will not disconnect. So if I turn myself in real life or I rotate in the game using my analog stick, even though my hand is still closed here, it's still considered grabbing that wall. So this is really helpful if you want to like turn yourself around this way and you're shooting someone in this direction. My hand is still holding, and I'm shooting with the other hand. As soon as you let go though, it's still going to drop. Next thing I'm going to show you here is the step up mechanic in the game. Whenever you walk up to a surface that is close to or lower than your chest level, your character will just step right over it. I'm going to use these blockades as an example, but if I walk straight at them, I do no climbing or press nothing else other than walking forward, my character is just going to step up and over them. This is going to be really important for a lot of things I'm going to show you further down in this tutorial, and it's something to just kind of practice throughout your game to know what you can step up on. So for example, if I go over to this truck here, I don't have to lift myself up. I can just walk straight at it, and my character is going to pop up right there on it. Showing one of the uses of that step up mechanic is you can usually fly on top of a surface that looks like otherwise you wouldn't make it. So if I go to that blue crate, it looks like I'm going to fly too low and not make it, but if you just trust the step up and go straight at it, even though it looks like I dipped pretty low, my character pops back up on these crates, even when my head gets really low on them there. So this is something to keep in mind when flying and moving around, and it's going to help you move a lot faster in combat. So that pretty much covers it for the basics of flinging yourself up while climbing, and how to step up on ledges and move around the map. If you master those two things, you've pretty much got climbing down, and you're going to be able to get yourself much faster around the map. The rest of this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks of just little pieces of movement that could help you in certain situations, but they're not going to be as big as those two things I showed you. So, first thing to show is actually going to play off of flinging here. So, as I showed before, if you grab a surface and throw yourself up, you get some airtime. But if you do it into a ceiling, you're going to see that the game is still pushing me upwards. So when I fling like this, my head actually gets stuck into the ceiling for a little bit. This is really nice to use on some of the buildings where they have a lip that sticks outwards and you need to climb up and around it. Usually in game I'll go around it because I don't want to deal with it, but if you're in a certain scenario where you have to go across that flat surface, you just fling upwards and kind of pull back a little bit, and you can see you can actually climb on ceilings pretty quickly once you get this down. If you fling too much up, you don't get enough speed forward, and if you swing too much back, you'll move faster, but you don't get as much elevation, so you'll fall from the ceiling quickly. So with a little bit of practice, you can get that down really nicely. Another thing to show here is that flying is always going to be faster than walking, the only downside being that you are an easier target to shoot, and flying is going to be louder and more noticeable. But if you're going from point A to point B and you know you can comfortably fly to that spot, then I recommend climbing up a surface and flying there, because it will be going faster. Another trick you can use that to your advantage is if I'm, say, walking down this hallway and I have a surface next to me, I can actually just grab it and flick myself along, and this is going to get me along much faster than if I were to just walk there. I'll pull up a video right here to show you guys of us comparing speeds while two of us were downed, and even though I did a sloppy job moving myself along because I was left-handed on that wall there, it still closed a much larger gap than if you were to be walking. So give that a shot. Last thing I'm going to show here is something I like to call Dolphin Mode, because it's just a funny little trick you can use to get a bit faster. The way it works is you're going to place a pallet, and as you fly over this pallet, you drop another one directly on the other side of it. That looks like that. And if you can get it just right, it's going to look something like this. You can see I'm not perfect at it. You have to hold your hand at kind of a tricky angle. But if you can get this down, you can actually make a pretty funny speed strip in the game, and it does make you go faster. I'm going to pull up a video here and show you guys of us comparing speeds of walking to the Dolphin Mode, and it's just a pretty fun trick to use. It does use up a lot of building materials though, so it's not very ideal to do, but if you do have the situation come up to use it, then go for it. So that's it for the video. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would really help me out. Other than that, if I missed any details, I'm going to write them down in the description below or pin it in the comments. I don't think I did though. I made sure I was pretty thorough with this. Hopefully with this tutorial, it can improve your gameplay and you can see that you're going to be climbing much faster and moving a lot better. But with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.